What happens when one of the most powerful fashion houses in the world decides you are no longer welcome?
5 years after Megxit, Harry and Meghan have only really succeeded in becoming more isolated, winding up the royal family. Reputationally, for him, it was a massive turn-off. He became a joke.
All in all, it just is that overall look of their brand sort of in freefall.
A limited edition Balenciaga handbag, a closed-door fashion meeting in Paris, and security footage that would shake the royal family to its core. What started as a missing accessory worth thousands has exploded into the biggest royal scandal of 2026, and the evidence. It's irrefutable. I'm about to show you how one stolen handbag exposed years of tension, strategic warfare, and the moment Princess Anne and Zara Tindall finally said, "Enough is enough." This isn't just another royal drama. This is a calculated takedown, and you're watching it unfold in real time. Stay with me, because what happened next will change everything you thought you knew about the British royal family. The disappearance. Let's go back to where this all began. February 2026. London's elite fashion circles are buzzing about the Women in Eco-Leadership Gala, and Zara Tindall, Princess Anne's daughter, has just commissioned something extraordinary. A limited edition Balenciaga cash crocodile embossed clutch, hand embossed, monogrammed with her initials, stored under designated reservation at Balenciaga's London showroom. Now here's where it gets interesting. How many of you have ever had something precious go missing right before a major event? Drop a comment below, because Zara was about to experience this on a global scale. Days before her team was scheduled to retrieve the handbag, it vanished. Just disappeared. Balenciaga allegedly apologized for what they called a regrettable logistical error. No police report was filed. Zara, ever the professional, chose not to escalate publicly. But sources close to the Royal Wardrobe Office, they were reportedly incensed. Here's the thing about Zara Tindall that most people don't understand. She's not your typical royal. Olympic equestrian, mother, entrepreneur, wife of rugby star Mike Tindall. She holds no royal title by choice, but commands more respect than most working royals combined. She doesn't play media games. She doesn't chase headlines. She simply exists at a level of dignity that makes everyone else look amateur. So when her custom handbag disappeared, she did what true power does. She went quiet. She didn't throw a tantrum. She didn't call page 6. She simply made discreet inquiries through the proper channels. And that's when the real story began. The Paris revelation. Now remember that missing handbag? The one that was supposed to be a logistical error? It reappeared. In Paris, on the arm of Meghan Markle. Let that sink in for a moment. The timing wasn't just unfortunate. According to multiple fashion industry sources, it was surgical. Meghan was photographed head-to-toe in black Balenciaga, walking into a left-bank PR firm's offices with Zara's unreleased, monogrammed, custom-commissioned handbag. The image was circulated internally within Balenciaga less than 48 hours after the gala Zara was supposed to attend. Do you see what's happening here? This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a mix-up. This was a statement. But here's where Meghan miscalculated. Badly. Balenciaga was already reviewing Meghan's proposed ambassadorship. They were considering her for a luxury sustainability line. She was supposed to be the face of their next evolution. And then this happened. Within days, contract talks were quietly postponed. Not canceled, that would be too obvious, just indefinitely delayed. The fashion house's response was swift and discreet, because here's what Meghan didn't understand about European luxury brands. They value discretion above everything, above celebrity, above headlines, above controversy. And Meghan? She was about to become all three. While Balenciaga was pulling back, Meghan's team did something extraordinary. They released a glossy video teaser for a new fashion initiative called Love with Meghan, featuring clips from Paris, mood boards, and close-ups of accessories, including the now notorious handbag. A palace insider described this move as a deliberate provocation, and not just towards Zara. Think about this for a second. You're Meghan Markle. You've just acquired, somehow, a custom handbag that wasn't meant for you. The rightful owner has made quiet inquiries. The brand is reconsidering your entire relationship, and your response is to feature it in promotional content? That's not confidence. That's desperation masked as dominance. And the royal family? They were watching. They were noting. They were preparing. The investigation. Behind palace walls, something shifted. According to sources close to the royal wardrobe office, Zara contacted Balenciaga through her private secretary with a firm, respectful request. An internal investigation into how a reserved item ended up in someone else's possession. Someone who allegedly had no active commercial relationship with the brand. Now, pause for a moment. How would you handle this situation? You've been publicly humiliated. Your custom piece is being paraded around Paris by someone with a track record of controversy. Do you lash out? Do you tweet? Do you call your lawyers? Zara did none of these things. She operated through proper channels. She maintained dignity. She let the facts speak for themselves. And those facts? They were damning. Balenciaga's internal investigation revealed something shocking. Despite attending Paris Fashion Week and appearing publicly in Balenciaga, allegedly invited by creative director Demna, it emerged that Meghan was never confirmed as an official guest by the house's internal branding team. Her name did not appear on pre-approved ambassador shortlists. Her sudden alignment with the brand had raised red flags internally, especially in light of what sources called fresh allegations surrounding her previous wardrobe controversies. The reference here is clear: the now-defunct Aruel wardrobe project, which had its own questions about product access and proper protocols. Are you starting to see the pattern? This wasn't Meghan's first rodeo with questionable fashion acquisitions. It was just the first time she'd taken something from the wrong person. Because Zara Tindall? She's not someone you underestimate. The Silent War. Here's where this story gets truly fascinating. While Meghan was scrambling to control the narrative, releasing statements about misogynistic narratives and institutional sabotage, hinting at broader conspiracies to freeze her out of elite circles, Zara did something radical. She said nothing. Instead, she attended the Cartier British Polo Awards in Gloucester, wearing a white tailored suit from Victoria Beckham's upcoming collection. A quiet nod to solidarity among women who've actually built sustainable careers in fashion. The photos went viral. Fashion critics praised her controlled elegance, modern restraint, and aristocratic ease. One Vogue UK editor captured it perfectly. Zara doesn't chase the spotlight, but when Meghan tried to manipulate the fashion world into a loyalty contest, Zara just stood still and the world moved toward her. Do you understand the power in that? While Meghan was posting cryptic Instagram stories and releasing video teasers, Zara was simply existing, living her life, doing her work, being herself. And the world chose her. A week later, Harper's Bazaar UK confirmed they'd approached Zara for a cover feature. She declined, citing family commitments. But the message was clear. She didn't need the exposure. The exposure needed her. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Princess Anne was making moves that would reshape the entire narrative. Anne initiated what sources called a family-only review of how royal-adjacent figures were aligning with commercial entities. The timing, while diplomatically described as routine, coincided perfectly with growing concern over Meghan's alleged misuse of royal references in brand negotiations. One longtime palace advisor explained Anne's strategy perfectly. It was Anne's way of drawing the line, not through press conferences, but through policy. She knew the press would twist her words, so she used procedure instead. That's Anne. You'll never see her flinch, but you will feel the walls move around you. Think about that level of strategic thinking. Anne didn't issue statements. She didn't do interviews. She didn't tweet. She simply restructured the framework within which royal-adjacent figures could operate commercially. And Meghan? She was on the wrong side of that framework. The industry turns. By mid-February 2026, the fashion industry began to shift. And when the fashion industry shifts, it doesn't issue press releases. It simply stops calling. Invitations became sparse. Balenciaga had already frozen talks, but then Chanel, once rumored to be in discussions for a sustainability collaboration with Meghan, issued a subtle press shift promoting their equestrian capsule collection with Zara Tindall as a silent brand ambassador. No announcement, just a Vogue editorial. Dior and Burberry executives, both of whom had received direct pressure from Meghan's stylists to include her in spring 2026 campaigns, opted to distance themselves. A French PR director captured the sentiment: "She doesn't represent discretion, and discretion is our currency." But here's what makes this rejection even more devastating. These weren't just random brands pulling back. These were the houses that Meghan had been courting for years. The same brands she name-dropped in interviews. The same brands she wore strategically to events, hoping for that organic partnership deal that would cement her status as a global fashion icon. And they all said no. Not publicly, not dramatically. They just moved on. Meanwhile, behind closed doors at Balenciaga's Paris headquarters, something else was happening. Internal emails were being reviewed. Security footage was being examined. And according to sources within the fashion house, what they discovered was even more damning than the handbag incident itself. There were patterns, multiple instances where product samples meant for editorial shoots had somehow ended up in Meghan's possession. Pieces that were never officially loaned, accessories that disappeared from showrooms after her team visited. Nothing was ever reported because, well, who wants to publicly accuse a duchess of essentially shoplifting luxury goods? The optics would be terrible for everyone involved. But now, with the handbag incident bringing everything into focus, those old incidents suddenly mattered. A senior Balenciaga executive speaking anonymously revealed, "We started connecting dots we'd previously dismissed, the missing samples, the confused invoices, the pieces that were photographed on her but never officially approved. It painted a very troubling picture." Think about what this means. Meghan wasn't just careless with Zara's handbag. This was allegedly a pattern of behavior, a sense of entitlement that extended across multiple fashion houses, multiple countries, multiple years. And the fashion industry, they talk to each other. Luxury brands operate in a small, interconnected world where reputation is everything and discretion is valued above all else. Once Balenciaga started asking questions, other houses started sharing their own stories. Quietly, privately. The way old money always handles uncomfortable truths. Behind closed doors, over expensive wine, with impeccable manners and devastating finality. Meanwhile, Zara's 2026 calendar filled quietly. Co-host of the Royal Charity Polo Invitational, equestrian lead for the Commonwealth Youth Games, featured in Harper's Bazaar UK's Legacy and Lineage issue. She did no outreach, she accepted no payment. But the doors opened. One fashion editor summarized it perfectly. She didn't step forward, she simply didn't step wrong. Now contrast this with Meghan's trajectory. The woman who once had luxury brands competing for her attention was now watching those same brands actively choose her competitor. A woman who doesn't even hold a royal title, who doesn't work as a senior royal, who has never needed Hollywood or fashion to validate her existence. The irony is almost poetic. And then came the moment that defined the entire conflict. The quote, heard round the world. At a Glasgow horse trial, a journalist asked Zara if she'd seen Meghan's latest Instagram reel. one where Meghan wore a replica of Zara's 2022 ascot look with the caption, "Real class needs no bloodline." Zara blinked once. Then she said, "Some of us ride horses. Some of us ride headlines. I prefer the former." That quote was picked up by over 300 outlets within 24 hours. It was calm. It was icy. It was devastating. And it broke through in a way no angry press release ever could. Even Princess Anne reportedly raised an eyebrow in approval. Do you see what happened there? Meghan had spent weeks trying to provoke a reaction, trying to drag Zara into a public battle, trying to create drama that would keep her relevant.
Because it feels really inclusive and there's representation and it's just like a sweet love story.
And Zara responded with one sentence that simultaneously acknowledged the conflict, dismissed the challenger, and reminded everyone of the fundamental difference between them. One woman works with horses, noble, powerful animals that require skill, patience, and genuine mastery. The other works with headlines, fleeting, manipulable, ultimately empty. The public got the message immediately. But here's what most people missed in the aftermath of that quote. Behind the scenes, Princess Anne was orchestrating something far more calculated than a single comeback line. She had quietly reached out to Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, the York sisters who had maintained a fragile friendship with Meghan even after the royal exit. The message was simple: it's time to choose. According to sources close to the York family, Anne didn't issue ultimatums. She simply presented facts. The handbag incident, the fashion house allegations, the pattern of behavior that was now becoming impossible to ignore. Meghan, sensing the walls closing in, had already tried to secure the York sisters' loyalty. She invited them to a private dinner in Mayfair under the guise of reconciliation. But the actual agenda? A coordinated public statement defending her right to pursue luxury partnerships without palace policing? Beatrice declined outright. Eugenie arrived late, stayed exactly 40 minutes, and left in silence. One former royal liaison explained, she was baiting them, trying to drag them into her feud with Zara and Anne. But the York sisters are survivors. They've seen what happens when you pick the wrong moment to speak. And here's the crucial detail most people don't understand about royal dynamics. The York sisters had their own complicated history with the institution. They'd faced their own scandals, their own public humiliations, their own struggles with relevance and respect. But they learned something Meghan never did. You don't fight the institution. You don't try to outsmart it. You certainly don't try to manipulate it through media campaigns and celebrity connections. You either work within it or you leave it alone. Meghan tried to do neither. She wanted to have it both ways, retain the royal credibility while operating completely outside royal constraints. And the York sisters, whatever their flaws, understood that this approach was doomed from the start. Their withdrawal from Meghan's orbit wasn't about loyalty to Anne or Zara. It was about survival. They knew that betting against the institution was a losing game, no matter how compelling the individual player might seem. The public got the message immediately. The empire crumbles. While Zara's star ascended, Meghan's empire began to show cracks. By the third week of February, Archewell's internal morale hit a historic low. 2 directors resigned. A major investor backed out of a proposed educational streaming deal. Netflix stopped greenlighting new Markle-led pitches. But before we get to the federal investigation, let's talk about something that happened in the shadows of Kensington Palace. Something that reveals just how coordinated the royal response really was. Princess Catherine, who had remained publicly silent throughout the entire handbag saga, was making her own strategic moves. At a London charity gala on February 12th, one of her first major appearances following her recovery from health treatment, she wore a restructured ivory gown first worn by Queen Elizabeth II in 1969. The dress had been in the royal archives for decades. Its reemergence was no accident. It was a signal of continuity, of legacy, of whose side history is on, noted a royal fashion historian. But here's what makes this move so brilliant. Catherine didn't need to mention Meghan's name. She didn't need to reference the handbag. She didn't need to make any statement at all. By wearing the Queen's dress, she was making a declaration that went far deeper than any interview ever could. She was saying, "We are the continuation of something that existed before you arrived and will exist long after you're gone." And while Catherine projected this image of timeless elegance, she was also taking concrete steps behind the scenes. According to palace sources, she advised all patronages under her name to quietly transition away from any collaborations linked with Archewell. Not dramatically, not publicly, just softly severing ties. Have you noticed how the most powerful moves in this entire saga have been the quiet ones, the unstated withdrawals, the subtle repositioning? Drop a comment if you're seeing the pattern here, because what we're witnessing is a masterclass in institutional power. The palace wasn't fighting Meghan with press releases or interviews or social media clapbacks. They were simply rearranging the chessboard, moving pieces into position, closing doors that Meghan didn't even realize were still open. Prince William, meanwhile, ordered the Royal Communications Office to update all Sussex-era protocols, flagging potential reputational risks tied to past joint engagements. This wasn't about erasing history. It was about protecting the future. One senior advisor explained, "Every photograph from those years, every joint appearance, every shared platform, it all had to be reviewed through the lens of current reputational risk. Not because we're vindictive, but because the institution has to protect itself." And then came the federal investigation. On February 26th, the U.S. Internal Revenue Service's Exempt Organizations Division opened a formal inquiry into Archewell Foundation's grant distribution model. Allegations included misuse of brand-affiliated travel expenses, donor naming rights conflicts, and inflated PR budgets masked as charitable storytelling. For the first time, the scrutiny wasn't coming from British tabloids. It was American, it was federal, and it was immune to media spin. Meghan's lawyers issued a vague statement about full transparency and compliance, but internally, panic set in. Former employees were subpoenaed. Financial documents were requested. The timing couldn't have been worse, because while Meghan was dealing with IRS investigations and Netflix cancellations, Zara was in Botswana attending a rural eco-development program sponsored by the Commonwealth Secretariat. No cameras, no press, just the work. One palace insider captured the final contrast perfectly. One woman trying to threaten her way back into relevance. Another woman becoming relevant by never demanding attention. In the end, the public began to choose, and they chose the one who never asked to be chosen. The letter. On February 24th, something unexpected happened. Princess Anne wrote to Meghan. It wasn't a royal statement, it wasn't an official reprimand, it was a private letter, couriered to Montecito via diplomatic post. According to trusted palace sources, Anne's message was composed, direct, and moral. She reminded Meghan that royalty isn't inherited through blood alone. It's earned in the spaces between headlines, in how one endures, not just how one speaks. She invited Meghan, quietly, to return to the path of public duty, not as a duchess, not as a celebrity, but as a woman capable of choosing legacy over leverage. Meghan never responded. Instead, she launched a global live broadcast titled "The Cost of Silence," streamed from a luxury loft in downtown Los Angeles. With curated lighting, a designer suit, and black and white montage of old Windsor footage playing behind her, Meghan addressed nearly 500,000 viewers. She began softly, then sharpened her tone. "The monarchy taught me that dignity was about smiling in silence, but silence is not peace, it's permission." She named no names, but the jabs were clear. She referenced being frozen out of family dinners, watching while others built their power by ignoring injustice. She said she chose to walk away rather than wilt. She ended with a chilling vow, "I will tell my daughter the truth they could not bear to hear from me." Some applauded, others grimaced. But within 24 hours, the broadcast was eclipsed by something Meghan hadn't anticipated. Service in motion. The Royal Archives unveiled a new permanent exhibition titled Service in Motion, inside Windsor Castle. Among the featured figures, Princess Anne, the late Queen Elizabeth II, and Zara Tindall. Zara's exhibit included letters from girls she'd mentored through charity sports, video clips from military hospital visits, and the boots she wore winning gold in the 2012 Olympics. There was no social media campaign, no sponsorship logo, just impact. Near the exit was a quote from Princess Anne. "Some talk of legacy, others ride it out, rain or shine." It became the most shared line of the week. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. While Meghan delivered a carefully staged broadcast about her suffering, Zara's actual service, quiet, consistent, decades long, was being celebrated in one of the most prestigious venues in the world. That same night, Zara and Mike Tindall attended a veterans fundraiser at Sandringham. A small girl in a wheelchair approached her. Zara knelt and asked gently, "What's your dream?" The girl replied, "To be brave like you." Zara smiled. "Then I think you already are." No broadcast, no quote cards, no drama, just legacy. The final reckoning. Under the morning drizzle of a London spring, Zara Tindall stepped through the wrought iron gates not as an Olympic equestrian or granddaughter of a queen, but as the newly appointed special envoy for heritage and sport, a royal position created in honor of her decades-long service to the Commonwealth. No announcement had been made in advance. No photographers were tipped. It was Princess Anne's idea. Let the moment speak for itself. And it did. Wearing her grandfather Prince Philip's tie pin, restored, reset, and gifted by her mother, Zara stood beside King Charles and accepted the title with a bow of her head and a steady gaze. Her role would include overseeing royal patronages across Commonwealth youth sporting programs with special focus on female empowerment and post-trauma equine therapy. No glitz, no cameras backstage, just service. Meanwhile, Meghan was photographed alone, leaving a Los Angeles legal office, documents in hand, lips tight. Insiders claimed she was considering filing civil defamation charges against unnamed royal advisors. The divide was complete. The lesson. So what have we witnessed here? What's the real story behind the stolen handbag? This was never about a Balenciaga clutch. It was about something far more fundamental. The difference between power that's performed and power that's earned. Meghan Markle tried to manipulate the system. She took what wasn't hers, literally and metaphorically. She assumed that media attention equals influence, that headlines equal respect, that controversy equals relevance. She was wrong on every count. But let's dig deeper into why this miscalculation was so catastrophic. Because there's another dimension to this story that we haven't fully explored yet. The American angle. Tyler Perry. Remember that name? He was Meghan's most reliable stateside ally, the man who provided housing when she and Harry first left the UK, the silent patron who offered financial backing and industry connections when everyone else was keeping their distance. By late February, according to multiple sources, Tyler Perry had quietly refused to extend further financial assistance to Archewell projects. Why? What changed? Here's what people don't understand about Tyler Perry. Yes, he's loyal. Yes, he's generous. Yes, he believes in supporting people who've been knocked down by the establishment. But he's also a businessman who built an empire from nothing. And businessmen understand patterns. They understand when someone is a victim of circumstance versus when someone is the architect of their own downfall. The handbag incident, combined with the IRS investigation, the Netflix cooling, the fashion industry blacklisting, Perry could see the pattern, and more importantly, he could see that Meghan wasn't learning from it. One entertainment industry source close to Perry revealed, he told friends that he felt like he was enabling someone who refused to take accountability, that every time he offered support, it was used to double down on the same behaviors that caused the problems in the first place. Think about what that means. Meghan lost her most powerful American ally, not because he turned on her, but because he recognized that continuing to support her was actually doing more harm than good. And here's the question nobody's asking. Where does she go from here? Hollywood has moved on. The fashion industry has closed its doors. The royal family has insulated itself completely. American philanthropy circles are asking questions she can't answer, and her most reliable supporters have quietly stepped back. What's left? Zara, Tindall, and Princess Anne showed us something else entirely. They showed us that real power doesn't need to announce itself, that dignity doesn't require a microphone, that legacy isn't built through broadcasts, it's built through decades of consistent, quiet, unglamorous service. They didn't fight Meghan in the tabloids, they didn't issue statements, they didn't even acknowledge her provocations directly. They simply continued being who they've always been. And the world, the fashion industry, the public, even the palace, moved toward them. But here's what makes their victory so complete. They never sought it. Zara didn't wake up one morning and decide to destroy Meghan Markle's credibility. She just lived her life with integrity, and that integrity became its own defense. Princess Anne didn't craft a revenge plot. She simply applied the same institutional protocols she's been applying for 5 decades. The same standards, the same expectations, the same quiet, relentless consistency that has made her the most respected royal of her generation. And that consistency revealed something crucial. The institution doesn't need to attack its critics. It just needs to outlast them. Because here's the truth about institutional power that Meghan fundamentally misunderstood. It's not about winning individual battles. It's about surviving long enough for the truth to become undeniable. The palace didn't need to prove Meghan took the handbag improperly. Balenciaga's internal investigation did that. They didn't need to expose her financial irregularities. The IRS did that. They didn't need to turn the fashion industry against her. Her own behavior did that. All the palace had to do was maintain its standards, protect its people, and wait. Princess Anne drew the line through policy, not press. Zara won the war by refusing to fight it. And Meghan? She found herself on the outside of a circle she thought she could manipulate from within. The handbag was just the beginning. The Balenciaga frieze was just the first domino. What followed was a systematic, strategic, devastating reminder that you cannot fake your way into legitimacy. You cannot steal respect. You cannot threaten your way into legacy. And you absolutely cannot compete with women who've spent their entire lives mastering the very game you're trying to play on easy mode. Now, I want to ask you something, and I really want you to think about this before you answer. Do you think Meghan will ever recover from this? Or has she permanently damaged her credibility beyond repair? But more importantly, and this is what I really want to know, what does this saga teach us about the difference between celebrity and legacy? Between noise and substance? Between demanding attention and earning respect? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this analysis valuable, if you stuck with me through this entire journey from a missing handbag to the complete unraveling of a carefully constructed public image, then hit that subscribe button. Because the royal drama is far from over, and you'll want to be here when the next chapter unfolds. One final thought before we go. In the battle between headlines and heritage, between performance and purpose, between leverage and legacy, history always remembers who chose substance over spectacle. Meghan chose spectacle. She chose the shortcut. She chose to take what wasn't hers and hope nobody would notice or care. Zara chose substance. She chose the long road. She chose to earn what she has through decades of unglamorous work that most people never even see. And that, in the end, made all the difference. Because here's the thing about stolen handbags and borrowed credibility and manufactured relevance. Eventually, someone asks to see the receipt. Eventually, someone asks for proof of purchase. Eventually, the house of cards collapses. And when it does, you'd better hope you built something real underneath. Zara did. Anne did. Catherine did. Meghan didn't. And now we're all watching what happens when the performance ends, and there's nothing left but the truth. Thanks for watching. This has been a deep dive into power, legacy, and the price of taking what doesn't belong to you. I'll see you in the next one.